downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
I've been doobed, and you should be next. Yes, Doob, D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. I just had one done of me. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations at their store on 119th Street in La Paloma Plaza near the Cheesecake Factory. Doob, be next.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256.
It's our Arts and Lifestyles Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit, and our every other week, most of the time, except when I go to Europe, conversations with Tim Finn. And he always does it in Kansas City Magazine, the 5 can't-miss concerts of the week. And this week, let's just go through them because they're really, really interesting. And just coming up in the next day or two will be Todd Snyder at the Folly Theater, someone who has never really been a major factor as far as selling a lot of albums are concerned, but now many, many of those albums down the road, he's a viable performer that has a maybe more than a cult following.
Right. He got started. He signed Jimmy Buffett heard him and signed him to his label way back, almost decades ago. And I caught wind of him in the early 90s. And because he was just like so many of my favorite songwriters, whether it's Dylan or Paul Simon or Randy Newman, John Prine, he's of that ilk.
And references those people.
He does. Yes. Can turn a phrase, very thoughtful, poetic lyrics. He's clever. He's kind of a wise guy. He's funny. He can be funny and sad at the same time, like Randy Newman.
Right.
And he put out some really good records right in a row, but could never get a radio hit. Could never elevate himself into the not even the theater class. He plays Knuckleheads. He's playing the Folly, so he'll probably get 400 or 500 people. He's a really engaging entertainer. He tells stories about his songs. He's funny. He's whimsical, and I would have thought he would be better known by now, but he's sort of like Robert Earl Keen, also,
right,
in that mold. Like, he's not Lyle Lovett. He's not up there yet, but he's sort of in that. A good songwriter.
And oftentimes, if you're not somebody who has a quote-unquote hit or a hit album in the first few years of your career, you're probably not going to.
Right.
And so, but you can still ply out a very viable, the Folly's a fine venue, and I'm a big fan of it, and you can you can have a career.
I saw him play at the Voodoo Lounge, which, when it's full, it can hold 800 people. And there were 350 people there. It was a sit-down show, very comfortable, and he just engages a crowd. And he's been through some personal stuff, including getting over addictions to painkillers and other things. Like, he's just kind of emerging from that last year and a half or so. But he put out a new record, or a record last year, and it sounds like he's better. healed and,
Right.
And really ready to tour. And if you haven't seen them and you like the songwriters like we've been mentioning, I recommend it. And Elizabeth Cook is opening. She's
Right.
one of my favorite unheralded sort of neo-traditional country songwriters. I saw her at Knuckleheads a couple of times. I have a couple of her records, so it's a good match.
What do you think? It just popped into my head that it seems like for artists like this, and a couple of what we're going to talk about right here, it seems like NPR is one place where maybe they get a little bit of a boost, like on Daily Morning Edition or
Or the Tiny Desk concerts, or
Right. Yeah.
Bob Bowen is a guy who
Right.
NPR has a really influential music component. Like if you go to their website, they promote a lot of records, and it's comparable to the Bridge because they're both NPR stations.
Right.
So yeah, visit their website. They introduce a lot of new people. That's where I find out about
Right.
new bands or new artists.
And nationally, sometimes on some of their national news programs, they'll have little review segments or something, and that seems to be these type of acts, maybe older ones,
Right.
maybe like a Todd Snyder or something like that. Maybe get a little play out of that. That's it, because that's hard to come by these days.
No, if you get on there, you're really happy. You're going to get a bump or a push or some momentum. After that, it's up to you to keep it going.
Right.
But no, it's a big deal to be on there. Some local bands, Making Movies has been on Tiny Desk concerts, and
Right.
they're doing real good right now.
And that show is tomorrow, and so is the Tomorrow show at Liberty Hall. That's at the Folly for Todd Snyder. And the Hives play. When you have a name of a band like that, that's instantly recognizable. You remember it. I hadn't thought about the Hives in years, but I saw the thing, and I'm like, the Hives, I remember them. And kind of a straight of its time, pop type of punk band, but they did it right.
When I saw they were playing and went to research them, it's been almost 2 decades that they've been out there, which just hit me like a sledgehammer, because I remember when they came out. They were part of this garage rock revival, which is
Right.
punk, but it's sort of gritty, poppy, fast moving, really good pop stuff. And they were Swedish, and there were other bands from Sweden and Norway who were doing the same thing, and bands over here like the Strokes were another band who were a big
Right.
part of that. Just kind of going back to the early '60s, it was kind of pre-punk, so it was pop and punk, and it was garage bands. Because
Right.
Basically, 4 guys got together, couldn't really play, and figured out how to play some songs, and
Right.
and wrote really melodic stuff. So, and I saw them at the Uptown in the sort of the thick of their popularity, and it was fine. It was great. I mean, everything I want, like we were talking about.
Right. Well, I can.
And they get in and out of songs like 2.5 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that sort of another thing that's why we take these little musical journeys that I like. One of the stations that I listen to quite a bit on my Sirius channel is Little Steven's Underground Garage.
Oh, yes.
And that's all garage music basically. A lot of it's girl bands, and he has some he's kind of an over elaborate speaker, but he's interesting when he speaks. So look for that down the bottom of it. It's Sirius. It's channel 17, 18, 19. I think it's 19, I believe, but it's down in there near Bruce Springsteen's channel, and it's not one of those part-time channels either. But they play. If you like garage rock, I can.
Well, and then back then
I can recommend that.
There was a box set called Nuggets that came out, like 6 compilation CDs that have more than you probably need in your lifetime.
Right.
All of it is so good, but it's these
Right.
like some well-known bands, some obscure bands just playing this stuff, and some of it's, like I said, 90 seconds or 2 minutes in and out with a great melody and a great groove, and it's sort of angry and rough, but it's his favorite music, and it's some of mine too.
Right. At Knuckleheads on the 26th, Black Joe Lewis, and Knuckleheads does such a great job in a variety of ways, but here's another person who probably is, when we're talking about garage band, this is probably like almost the exact opposite. An accomplished musician with an accomplished band playing music for not thousands, but incredibly good music.
Right. And, there's been this soul revival, not
Right.
a lot unlike what was going on with the garage music back in the, turn of this century. And a lot of bands, I'm surprised because I think of all the bands that are out there doing well and most of them seem to be doing better than Black Joe Lewis. I think he's the best. And
right.
It's just kind of a little mystifying why he hasn't elevated himself to, St. Paul and the Broken Bones.
Right.
I would much rather listen to Black Joe Lewis. But yeah, it's just this fusion of blues, rock, and soul, and it's swinging music. It swings hard. It's like the greatest wedding band you've ever seen, but it's original music, and it's you just can't not fall into it and submit to the sway. But it's so engaging, and he's so engaging as a performer.
I'm gonna go. I think you
Yeah,
just sold me. I haven't seen him.
I saw them. They played at the Riot Room once, which is a tough place for me. If you don't get there on time, it's kind of hard to see the stage.
Right.
But still, there were a lot of people there. I had a great time. And then I saw them at Knuckleheads. So this is the perfect place for them.
I hope to experience that. I'll see how my schedule works out for that. That sounds like a keeper there, because the way you described it was perfect. I think I haven't seen him.
It ought to be, yeah.
And that's sort of a somewhat. I think that description has somewhat been used for the Mavericks, kind of. The greatest wedding band you've ever seen.
Right, I'd say that about them. I think you'll like them. It's different music, but
right?
Unless
and I like retro
music,
I like retro soul. Yeah, I mean,
I think you'll like them the same way.
And at the Record Bar on the 28th, Kelly Finnegan and the Atonements, a generational musician, father's a famous session man, and
former Kansas Jayhawk basketball player.
Yes, Mike Finnegan. So Kelly Finnegan and the Atonements, what are they all about? Another kind of in the genre we're talking about.
It is sort of white soul. It's pretty much. It's not the same as Black Joe Lewis, but it's the same genre,
right? And
going for the same vibe. He's just put out. He was in a band called the Monophonics, and that was more R&B and hip hop, I think. This is his first solo project, and he's also a producer and engineer. He plays several instruments, and he's a singer. So he's multifaceted and multitasking, and yeah, it's maybe a little mellower, but still. It's got the super groovy vibe, yeah.
So swinging a little bit still.
And it's in the Record Bar, so it'll be really intimate. Yeah.
Anything else on your musical mind as we speak this time around?
Well, we were sort of talking about this before we went on, and it's what I'm thinking about is, so I spent 20-something years at the Star,
right,
seeing a lot of shows and recording a lot of shows, and a lot of those are out there. You can still find my reviews online, and I look up reviews of shows. I look up set lists of shows, and I think it's great when that's documented, because people talk about that and remember shows and forage through the internet to find, or they have saved reviews,
right,
cut them out of the paper, and I guess I'm just aware that is going away, and not so much in the big,
right,
markets.
But the problem there in the big markets is the fact that, you can. I've had this experience. Yet another Mark Knopfler reference. But I'll be in Chicago to see an act. Just forget it's Mark Knopfler, but somebody like that now, and they have so many shows there that they might not even review that show. Right. That might be the 7th show. So that's the big city still will have a music critic or two. And still you may miss some shows in that regard. That's what's the shame of it. And the smaller papers, Kansas City, Minneapolis sometimes or whatever, don't have music critics anymore.
No, they hire the Star. As my friend Bill Brownlee is still writing reviews, but they're way more selective now. And the magazine I write for, and I told this to you, what we're running into is. There's some pushback from the tours about giving out review tickets. So, and it's not the venues; it's the people who run the tours who will decide who's going to be on our.
Yeah, and you say you don't quite know the motivation. Can you? I mean, there's always a reason for something. It's not lot of times a good reason for something. What do you think the reasoning is? Is it the fact that there's many more people out there? I find that in my enterprise now that getting credentialed is a little more difficult.